Tonight, making headlines first at 9. Investment made easy. Foreign Minister pledges single window approval facility for Bangladeshi investors within this year.
First at 9. This is Other Derana 24/7.
Also making headlines tonight, schoolgirl Vidya murder. Senior DIG Lalit Jaisinghe arrested. Rubber expansion. Industry calls for more local production to attract investors. Warning over Aruvakkalu landfill. Civil organization contradicts government plan, citing standards violation. Making headlines in sports, final at the SW19. Federer and Cilic to battle for the Wimbledon Championship. Good evening and a warm welcome to your prime time news. First at 9. I'm Indivari Amwatha. We begin with your local news. Senior DIG Lalit Jaisinghe was arrested by the Criminal Investigations Department today in connection with aiding the escape of a suspect accused of rape and murder of schoolgirl Sivaloganathan Vidya in Jaffna. The police media unit says the senior DIG will be produced before the Kites magistrate.
18-year-old schoolgirl Vidya was abducted, raped and murdered on the 13th of May in 2015 while on her way to school. 11 suspects were arrested for her murder, however 2 were later released by court. President Maithripala Sirisena, while on a visit to Jaffna, met her mother and promised to ensure justice in the investigation. Her murder case was taken up before a tri-member judge bench and a videotape of her rape, which was sent to a foreigner, was provided as evidence. Following further investigation, the CID arrested Senior DIG Lalit Jaisinghe, accusing him of allowing a suspect to flee.
And the newly appointed Secretary of Defence Kapila Vaidyaratne assures that he will only sanction the arrest of military personnel upon the advice of the Attorney General. He expressed these views speaking to media after meeting the chief prelates of the Asgiri and Malwatu chapters this morning.
Newly appointed Defence Secretary Kapila Vaidyaratne visited the temple of the Sacred Tooth Relic in Kandy today. He met the chief prelates of the Malwatu and Asgiri chapters as well as the Ramanya sector.
අවශ්‍ය අපරාධ පරීක්ෂණ කෙරීගෙන යන බව මම තහවුරු කරන්න ඕනේ. ඒව කරනව ඇරෙන්න කිසිම නැතුව අනවශ්‍ය අත්අඩංගුවට ගැනීමක් සිදු වෙන්නේ නැයි කියන එක මම සහතික කරනවා.
මේ වෙනුවට ආందోලනයක් තියෙනවා. බලහත්කාරයෙන් අතුරුදහන් ආරක්ෂා සම්බන්ධ පාන්ති ශ්‍රී ලංකාවට ගෙනීමෙන් සම්මත කිරීමෙන් රණවිරුවන්ගේ බොහෝ අය අනතුරේ වැටෙනවා.
රණවිරුවන්ට කිසිම සැකයක් නැතුව බයක් නැතුව ඉන්න පුළුවන් කියලා මම සහතික කරනවා. නමුත් ජාතික ආරක්ෂාව සම්පූර්ණයෙන් තිබ්බ විදියටත් වැඩිය හොඳට ආරක්ෂා වෙන බවට මම තහවුරු කරනවා. රණවිරුවන් ඇතුළු සියලුම ත්‍රිවිධ හමුදාව සහ සිවිල් ආරක්ෂක නිලධාරීන්ගේ ගරුත්වයත් අභිමානයත් කිසිම අවස්ථාවකදී දියාරු වෙන විදියට වැඩ නොකරනවයි කියන අදිෂ්ඨානයේ උඩ තමයි මම මේ වැඩ බාරගත්තේ.
Parliamentarian Vimal Weerawansa accuses that the arrest of former Navy spokesperson Commodore DKP Dasanayake recently was made to convince the international community. He levelled the accusation after visiting the former Navy spokesperson at the Colombo National Hospital today.
Former Navy spokesperson Commodore DKP Dasanayake, who was arrested in the connection with the disappearance of 11 youths during the period from 2008 to 2009, was transferred to the Colombo National Hospital from the Prisons Hospital last night due to an illness. A few parliamentarians visited the former Navy spokesperson at the National Hospital today.
All the doctors in the prison hospital said he should be taken to the Navy hospital. But then, without doing what the doctors said, prison officials kept the former Navy spokesperson in an ambulance until 5:30 in the late afternoon yesterday. Prison officials kept forcing doctors to change their decision about transferring him to the Navy hospital. Ignoring all their instructions, what the prison officials did was to admit the former Navy spokesperson to the Colombo National Hospital. This is unethical and illegal. Prison officials did this because the minister influenced them. He is in a condition where he needs to undergo a surgery. A UN Special Rapporteur came to Sri Lanka and they needed something to show him on the newspapers about how they arrested military officials who committed crimes during the war. That's the reason why they arrested the former Navy spokesperson Commodore Dasanayake in such an illegal manner.
Prison spokesperson Tushara Upuldeniya said to Derana that he received directives to transfer former Navy spokesperson Commodore DKP Dasanayake to the Navy hospital in Valisara today. Meanwhile, former President Mahinda Rajapaksa visited arrested intelligence officers at the Valikada prison today.
That's true. We're not satisfied with the situation when it comes to human rights. At least we were dealing with these things when there was a war. The problem here is that they can't solve these matters when we have already helped them by ending the war and paving the way for the country's development.
And on to the President's state visit to Bangladesh, Minister of Foreign Affairs Ravi Karunayaka says that the government will create a single window approval facility for Bangladeshi investors within this year. He was addressing Bangladeshi and Sri Lankan investment and business dialogue conducted with the participation of investors and businessmen of both countries. Minister Karunayaka accompanied President Maithripala Sirisena as part of his delegation to Bangladesh.
Bangladesh and Sri Lanka investment and business dialogue was held in Dhaka under the patronage of President Maithripala Sirisena today. The dialogue created a platform for potential Sri Lankan investors to look into further opportunities in Bangladesh in various sectors including gas production, bank and apparel. Businessmen gathered also discussed the decision to increase $142 million turnover between the two countries by 3 times within the coming years.
Let's trade within the region. We have SARCs, we have BIMSTECs, but we decide to trade outside that. Look at it. Look at the opportunities that are there. We are ready to ensure that double taxation agreement is concluded at the time the free trade agreement is signed and sealed. It is on behalf of the President that we discussed yesterday whether we could have a visa-free entry between our two countries. We are ready to respond, and I'm sure Bangladesh can respond likewise. Kushan was talking to see the trade facility that could be extended in our embassy, and we will ensure that there will be a full-fledged commercial diplomacy that will take place with a trade officer that is there, upgrading of our embassy to ensure that we respond to the needs of our investors in Sri Lanka, in Bangladesh, and we will provide the necessary wherewithal with financial and other political leadership that is required to ensure that you come in here and have a single window concept in Bangladesh. Likewise, the Bangladesh investors to come into Sri Lanka, we are fashioning our Board of Investments to ensure that we have a single window approval facility, which permits you to come in and be able to have your investments approved in 10 working days. This is something which has been non-existent. We'll be fashioning this to take place by end of September.
Meanwhile, President Maithripala Sirisena met with the Speaker of Bangladesh, Shirin Sharmin Chowdhury, yesterday. During the discussion, Speaker of Bangladesh has said that President Sirisena made a revolutionary transformation in Sri Lanka and identified him as an experienced and exemplary leader in the region as well as for the Commonwealth Group. President Sirisena also met with opposition leader of Bangladesh, Raushan Arshad, yesterday. During the meeting, the President has said that it is highly important to have a strong opposition party in a country since it paves the way for an incumbent government to be on the right track.
The National Dengue Control Programme, spearheaded by the Ministry of Mass Media together with the television media institutions, sprang into action today on the theme Let's Initiate Dengue Eradication, an awareness program on dengue eradication launched by TV Derana's humanitarian initiative, Manusat Derana, was also organized simultaneously in the city of Kelaniya. According to the epidemiology unit of the Ministry of Health, over 90,800 dengue cases have been reported from across the country so far this year, with the number of deaths increasing to 269.
As the country battles a rapidly spreading dengue epidemic, the National Dengue Control Program titled Let's Initiate Dengue Eradication was launched by the Ministry of Mass Media. Lending a hand to the national effort, TV Derana and Manusat Derana launched the initiative from the Kelaniya bus depot. Officials of Kelaniya Pradeshya Sabha, students of the Kelaniya University and public representatives of the area.
Dengue cannot be eradicated without raising public awareness. Derana is taking a very important step in this regard. We must take up this responsibility, as our carelessness may result in the loss of another life. This issue can't be solved through court cases and fines. This is an instance where society must unite, volunteer and forge ahead.
Subsequently, pamphlets on dengue eradication were distributed among the public and a massive cleaning effort got underway. All TV media institutions united as one for the initiative, telecasting the proceedings live from various locations around the country. Meanwhile, according to the epidemiology unit of the Ministry of Health, over 90,800 dengue patients have been reported from across the country so far this year, with 269 lives claimed by the epidemic.
And the organization Protect Sri Lanka warns that the proposed garbage dump facility in Aruwakkalu Puttalam breaches several standards required in the construction of a sanitary landfill. They issued the warning at a public lecture held today at the National Library and Documentation Services Board, adding that the public should take initiative in reducing the amount of waste they produce.
The public lecture was organized by the non-governmental organization Protect Sri Lanka under the theme Towards a Zero Waste Country. Sri Lanka's renowned environmentalists gathered to share their views on issues related to the garbage dumping crisis the country is currently facing. They specifically focused on the proposed garbage dump facility in Aruwakkalu in Puttalam.
There are three factors to consider when establishing an environmentally friendly garbage disposal facility. The first is it should not be near a water source. The second is it should not be adjacent to the sea. The other is the ground should be hard. These conditions should be met before coming to a feasibility study. Unfortunately, Aruwakkalu has a limestone bed with Kalawe and sea in close proximity. The accepted international standard is that the base should not be porous, as it is not the case with limestone, since waste leakage will be absorbed to the soil. So Aruwakkalu lacked the three fundamental requirements for a garbage disposal facility.
ඉතින් මූලික වශයෙන් අවශ්‍ය කරන කාරණා තුනම නැති තැනක් තමයි අරුවක්කාලුව කියන්නේ මූලික වශයෙන්.
Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa claims that the present government embraced short-sighted policies for political gain, pushing the country into further debt. The former president made these remarks during a meeting with artists in Panadura yesterday.
The maiden gathering of the Free Art Guild, a gathering of artists, was held with the participation of former President Mahinda Rajapaksa.
They implemented short-sighted policies for mere political gain and blamed me when they fell in trouble. They say the current situation is a result of the debt burden created by me. The easiest way for them to secure their power is by taking revenge from us. Promises given by this government only lasted until they came to power. The draft amendment to tax laws not only removes tax concessions pertaining to cinema, but also the tax concessions pertaining to cash prizes won at international award ceremonies. All artists have been included in the tax. We completely released music producers who created songs, launched cassettes and CDs, but they have also been taxed. For the authors, they only had to pay 50% of it, but now they have also been completely taxed. According to this act, no one is tax-free. The tax percentage was only 16% in Mahinda Rajapaksa's era, but they have increased the percentage up to 24%. The draft bill puts an unlimited burden of taxes on people.
With various factions waiting on the hot topic of a new constitution, the chairman of the Yuthukama Dialogue Circle gave in the Kumaratunga charges that none of the main political parties have expressed their views on facts included in the interim draft reports presented to the steering committee of the Constitutional Council. He expressed these views speaking at a media briefing in Colombo yesterday.
The subcommittee report of the Centre Periphery Relations begins by saying the unitary status of the country and the constitution will impede a fruitful, useful power devolution. I clearly say that the opinions of the joint opposition representatives of the committee has not been considered. N. Selvakumaran, S. Thavaraja, S. Vijay Sandiran, Professor Navaratna Bandara, Vincent Pathiraja, Lal Vijayanayaka and Jayampati Vikramratna are the ones who are included in the experts committee. Does any of them support the defeat of the LTTE? Is there a representation of the chief prelates in the committee? Minister of Justice is a member of this, but his objection to the content of the report is not mentioned.
Minister of Higher Education and Highways Lakshman Kiriyalla assures that construction work on the flyover in Rajagiriya will be concluded before plan by the end of this year. He expressed his views speaking to media following an inspection tour to the flyover construction site in Rajagiriya yesterday.
Minister of Higher Education and Highways Lakshman Kiriyalla and Deputy Minister of National Policies and Economic Affairs Dr. Harshidi Silva conducted an inspection tour at the construction site of the Rajagiriya flyover yesterday. The Rajagiriya flyover spans from the junction where Budgamur Road intersects with the Rajagiriya Kaduwela Road to President's College, Rajagiriya. The estimated cost of the flyover is 4.7 billion rupees and it commenced in July 2016 with the project scheduled to end by December 2018.
The construction of the flyover was due to conclude by the end of next year. As a result of the diligence of the Road Development Authority officials and the assistance of the residents in releasing land, we will be able to conclude this project by the end of this year.
The Rajagiriya flyover project commenced with the objective of minimizing traffic congestion at the Rajagiriya four-way intersection. The government expects traffic congestion from Battaramula to Nelumpokuna to ease following the completion of the project.
This bridge bypasses traffic at the intersection of Kota Road, Nawala Junction and Budgamur Road. There are about 60,000 conflicts per day at this junction. This conflict slows the speed down to 6 km per hour when driving towards Devi Balika Vidyalaya. We will speed it up by solving this issue.
Also in your local news, Minister of Health Dr. Rajitha Senaratne says action will be taken to control medical prices at private hospitals. He made these remarks speaking at a function held in Colombo yesterday.
The Health Wealth 2017 public health exhibition was held under the patronage of Minister of Health Dr. Rajitha Senaratne at the Bandaranayaka Memorial Hall in Colombo. The exhibition will be concluded tomorrow.
I will reduce the price of a stent next week. A stent cost 350,000 rupees and I will reduce it to 105,000 rupees. A steel costs 70,000 rupees and I will reduce that to 24,000. And I will also gazette them in few days. I have made a price analysis at all private hospitals and I will control medicine prices at them.
The Colombo Rubber Traders Association has set an ambitious target of achieving export revenue of $5 billion by 2030. Speaking at the annual general meeting of the CRTA chairman Sunil Poholyadde highlighted the necessity for more local production of rubber to attract foreign direct investments into the industry.
The 98th annual general meeting of the Colombo Rubber Traders Association held yesterday was attended by stakeholders of the rubber industry including planters, traders, manufacturers and exporters. Addressing the gathering, CRTA chairman Sunil Poholyadde acknowledged steep losses in production last year. The chairman said production dropped from 88 million kilograms in 2015 to 79 million kilograms last year, a decline of 11%.
I'm also glad that the rubber master plan has been formulated and the government has accepted, and it was presented by the Sri Lanka Society of Rubber to the Honorable Prime Minister. Now, according to this plan, our current production is at about 80 million kilos, is to go up to 300 million kilos by the year 2045. Also, this is going to bring in an export revenue of almost $5 billion by the year 2030. Now, all these expectations, I presume, will depend as long as we improve the production in Sri Lanka itself. At least a majority of this production needs to come in Sri Lanka. Otherwise, I do not see interest by any investor to set up factories in Sri Lanka if they have to import the raw material. There are vast areas of land being lost for urbanizing and also for industries. This is going to have a drastic effect on the production of rubber unless we allocate alternate land to start cultivating in the new areas.
In international business news, citing Chinese President Xi Jinping, the country's state broadcaster China's Central Television said today that China's central bank will take on a beefed-up role managing systematic risk in the country's financial markets. Speaking at the National Financial Work Conference, Xi had said China would set up a financial stability committee under the State Council to boost the People's Bank of China's role in managing financial risks and to create more cohesive regulation. Ahead of the closed-door event, economists had widely expected the meeting to focus on how the central bank could better coordinate with the country's three main financial regulators to manage risk in the financial system. On to the Zimbabwean tour of Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka ended day 2 of the single test against Zimbabwe in Colombo today at 293 for the loss of 7 wickets, trailing the visitors by 63 runs. The hosts went into lunch at a promising 77 for no loss after bowling Zimbabwe out for 356. But 2 3-wicket mini collapses derailed hopes of a strong first innings lead.
Zimbabwe resumed their first innings on 344 for 8, but Sri Lanka were able to claim the 2 remaining wickets in just 28 deliveries. Ranganaherat completed his 30th Test fifer with the wicket of Tripano, and Craig Ervin fell last for a career best of 160, with Zimbabwe finishing on 356. After batting steadily in the remainder of the first session, Sri Lanka's slide began in the second, with Dimuth Karunaratne offering a sharp chance to the slips. Kusal Mendis fell shortly afterwards, caught behind off Graham Cremer, and Upul Taranga had looked comfortable. His dismissal for 71 came after the bowler fielded a Dinesh Chandimal drive onto the stumps at the non-striker's end. Chandimal and Angelo Matthews were able to steady the innings with a 96-run partnership, which was broken by Cremer with the score on 212. Niroshan Dikpala was bowled by Cremer just 4 overs later, and Matthews was Sri Lanka's 6th wicket to fall, caught by Hamilton Mazakadze. Asela Gunaratne and Dilruwan Pereira were able to offer some resistance, but Dilruwan could not hold out until stumps, being run out for 33. Gunaratne remains not out on 24, partnered by Ranganaherat on 5, with Sri Lanka still trailing Zimbabwe by 63 runs in the first innings.
In tennis, 7-time champion Roger Federer reached his 11th Wimbledon final yesterday with a straight sets win against Tomas Berdych. His opponent in tomorrow's final will be Marin Cilic, who beat American Sam Querrey earlier in the day to become the first Croatian finalist at the Wimbledon since Goran Ivanisevic.
Roger Federer is into the final at Wimbledon without yet having dropped a set, although he did need 2 tie breaks to beat 11th seed Tomas Berdych 7-6, 7-6, 6-4. The 35-year-old Swiss becomes the oldest men's singles finalist at Wimbledon since Ken Rosewall in 1974. With Federer seeking an 8th title, Marin Cilic is into only his 2nd Grand Slam final after beating Sam Querrey 6-7, 6-4, 7-6, 7-5. The pair played each other in the quarterfinals last year, where Federer fought back from 2 sets down to triumph.
6-4, 7-6,
The head of so-called Islamic State in Afghanistan, Abu Said, has been killed in a raid on the group's headquarters in the east of the country. Releasing a statement yesterday, the Pentagon said the raid was aimed at disrupting the group's plan to expand in Afghanistan. IS has not yet confirmed Abu Said's death. In addition to the reported killings of Said and his predecessor Abdul Hasib in April, the US and Afghan forces have killed or captured hundreds of IS militants this year, according to the US military. And in Hawaii, at least 3 people were killed in a fire yesterday as firefighters battled to contain a blaze in a 36-story block of apartments. About 100 firefighters worked to put down the flames and evacuate residents of the block in Honolulu, with authorities confirming that 12 people have been injured and that emergency services are searching for survivors. While authorities continue to investigate the cause of the fire, they have confirmed that the apartment where the blaze originated did not have sprinklers, which could have contained the fire. Meanwhile, in India, rescue teams evacuated around 1,400 residents from Tankara town of India's western Gujarat state yesterday after a cloudburst led to flash floods. According to local authorities, the cloudburst dumped as much as 215 millimeters of rain in just 2 hours.
The rain submerged houses and roads, and residents waded through thigh-high water as they fled their homes. Tankara's neighbouring areas were also flooded, and district authorities sounded an alert in at least 7 villages in low-lying areas of the district. Monsoon rains in India claim scores of lives annually owing to floods, landslides and waterborne diseases. However, the June-September monsoon season is also crucial for India's rain-fed farming sector that accounts for nearly 15% of its $2 trillion economy.
Let's take a look at how the weather will be in Sri Lanka for the next 24 hours. Here's a look at the city-by-city forecast. That's all from your news first at 9 this Saturday. But before we go, we'd like to leave you with visuals of 2-month-old tiger cubs in a zoo in southwest China. What's special is that these cubs are septuplets, a very rare phenomenon. With the mother tiger lacking sufficient milk for the septuplets, they are being hand-raised by keepers. We leave you with these visuals. Have a pleasant evening. Stay safe. Good night.
Bringing you the news and information 24 hours a day. This is Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Derana 24/7.